Welcome to Transformation with Martinet. Martinet Emmons is a transformational life coach who broke free from childhood abuse, sexual trauma, and overcame cancer to become a powerful force of healing and hope for others. Martinet describes traumatic events as fierce emotional tsunamis. They can leave impending doom and destructive tidal waves of emotions that hit you when you least expect it. Martinet helps her clients dive into the depths of their trauma and pain as she stands fiercely advocating for them to shine a light on those experiences and find the lesson in the pain. She serves as a beacon of hope that guides you to see the strength, lessons, and purpose that can be born from the pain. You can feel alive with purpose again when you awaken your dormant strength, step into your power with a sense of peace, and discover a new wave of hope with the right tools and support. Martinet and her guests are here shining their lights today through empowering stories of hardship and transformation to inspire you to find hope and to see that there is a beautiful blue ocean of serenity, happiness, and fulfillment in your future. Transformation with Martinet starts now.
Transformation with Martinet, that's me. This is where we overcome everything and compromise nothing. I'm so excited to be back. For those of you that are new, my show is every Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, and my show is about hope. The guests that I invite on my show have a transformational story, and they believe that, like I do, that us as humans, we can get back up from anything, especially together, especially with support, with connection, with coaching, with friends and family. We really, really can get back up from anything. And don't be afraid to ever ask for help, okay? Please. We are in some rough times right now, and no matter what you're going through, there is somebody who can relate. I promise you. Don't be afraid to reach out. Reach out to me. I'm a coach. Reach out to my guest, who I'm going to introduce in a moment. She is a coach. And we will be here for you. So without further ado, I want to welcome, getting a little emotional, welcome my guest today, Michele, Jazelyn. We run in the same crowds, and we are here to serve people. So Michele, please introduce yourself in a bit better way than I am.
Oh, you're doing great.
Introduce yourself fully is what I mean.
Sure. So in addition to being a coach, I just like to tell everybody that I consider myself a free spirit. I'm a highly independent person, and I'm also someone who has been a single mom and served for 30 years before becoming a health coach. I served for 30 years as a healthcare quality and patient safety leader. And now I am actually in addition to being a coach, I am a registered advocate with the American Diabetes Association, trying to make change on Capitol Hill. And so that's really exciting for me. But what most people don't know about me is there was a time when I was shattered in my life, and now I truly do feel whole. I have been emotionally abused. I have been physically attacked. I have had emotional trauma, in a way that was for decades, and terrorized. So, and then I was also diagnosed as a heart attack and stroke waiting to happen, morbid obesity, type 2 diabetes, kidneys. So all of those things. But as you mentioned, and this is what's really important, is that I've been able to rise above all of that. It's a miracle.
So I would imagine getting a diagnosis that it's like you're just waiting to not be here anymore on this earth. I mean, to get a diagnosis like that has got to be terrifying. Because I know when I was diagnosed with cancer, it's like, oh my gosh, my kids are still so young, and I was my second marriage, newly married again, and like, what the heck am I going to do? I made a change the next day. What was what point, or what part of that diagnosis or the other things did you be like, okay, something's got to give?
it was immediate. As a
Mhm.
single mom who got no support from her father, he wasn't part
Mhm.
of her life. The initial image that came to me, I almost went blank.
Mhm.
And then my first thought was my daughter.
Mhm.
I could see her crying, like literally seeing these tears coming down her, worrying that she was going to lose her mom.
Mhm.
And I knew, like you, immediately I needed to do something different. But the
Mhm.
biggest aha moment of my life is that for 20 years I had always been pretty healthy growing up, and
Mhm.
then for about 20 years of my life I went into morbid obesity that it created
Mhm.
heart disease as well. I had high blood
Yeah.
pressure, high cholesterol, all that. And what happened was every time I would try to change me, I would say I have to go on a diet.
Mhm.
That day, in that moment, I said I have to change my life.
Mhm.
That was my first thought, that I am a people pleaser.
Mhm.
I help everybody and it's time to help me.
Right. And that is so common, especially with women, because we have children. They come first. They're always our priority. We want to take care of them. Plus, at least for me, it was always pleasing my parents. Even though I had a very unhealthy relationship with my father, it was still wanting to make him happy.
Yeah.
And I know I made a lot of decisions trying to make my parents happy or other people happy. And it wasn't until I started taking care of myself. And it started a little before the cancer diagnosis. But when that hit, it's like, oh my gosh,
Yes.
no more,
Right, right.
no more. So you talk about, well, multiple diseases, type 2 diabetes and all that. How, like, where did you start? Because that's a lot to deal with.
Wow. Where I started was, I knew that I had to change the way I was eating because
Mm-hmm.
I was in a job at that point in time where I was traveling an hour to work, 2 hours back, and
Mm-hmm.
I would stop at Dunkin' Donuts on the way, and I would be getting a bagel with double cream cheese, and I would give me that long thing with all the sugar on it. It was not healthy, so I
Yeah.
knew that I needed to do that. But what happened is I was making better changes in my life, and I was reading books, and there was so much controversy in them. Like this one would tell you, don't eat carbs. This one would say you need this. It was
Right.
bad. And so I was getting worse before I was getting better. The
Mm-hmm.
doctor had to put me on a third med because my blood sugars after dinner were going up. And so I
Mm-hmm.
decided finally I had to let my ego go. And even though I had been in healthcare quality and patient safety for decades,
Mm-hmm.
I needed help and I got a coach.
Yeah.
I got a coach, and that the woman who was my coach, I was with her for 2 years. It took me two
Mm-hmm.
years to shed 115 pounds, reverse my insulin resistance, and get off all my meds for blood sugar, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, everything. And I'm not one doctor, and I'm not in any way condemning the medical community. The
Mm-hmm.
people who work in medicine do it because they care. They
Mm-hmm.
work in a suboptimal system. And it wasn't until I learned in health coaching school that only 5% of medical schools require doctors to take one course in nutrition, that
Mm-hmm.
unless they go back for further education, become a functional medicine doctor, a neuro, naturopath or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
they really don't know. And that made, then I understood why I was working in healthcare and I didn't really know. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, having that coaching experience was
Mm-hmm.
profound. I literally was still working in the corporate world, and all I remember was I told my doctor on the last day when he said, Michele, you're at your ideal weight, your blood sugars are, you've reversed it, you're not on any meds anymore. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go out and speak. That's what I said. I'm going to go out and speak. I'm going to tell my story. And he
Yeah.
said, and of course he did, and it's not anything against him, but it was the coach that helped me, not him. The initial
Yeah.
advice that he had given me was just stay away from white foods, and I really didn't know what to eat.
Right.
And so he was like, I'll go on tour with you. It was sometimes when you go with multiple people. So all of a
Yeah.
sudden, I had this dream in my head. And from that point on, I told my daughter I wanted to have a blog and I was going to go out and I was going to help people. And she was in law school and she said, Mom, if you're going to go out there and try to help people, you can get sued. They could eat a recipe and get sick and then you'd be in trouble. And that's when I realized I want to create a business.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what really sparked me to change my career. I went on this path of I'm changing who I am.
Yeah, yeah. I hear that because the whole
Information.
I was raised by holistic doctors. I was raised eating really well. I never had that kind of thing, even though there were times where I battled my weight, but it was a different way, and that's a different time, a different story. But I was raised by healthy people. My doctor really, or my parents didn't really believe in doctors except for broken bones. It was all naturopaths,
Yeah,
homeopaths.
awesome.
It's a really good thing because I learned that a lot of medications, even though they're needed for many people, it masks the symptoms or gives you other symptoms that aren't pleasant either. So it's like if we get to the root cause of the problems, that's when things start to change. And I know when I was diagnosed, it was kind of like you. At first, I tuned out. I just let my husband talk to the doctor. I was like, I can't even believe this because I was the third kid of my parents to have cancer, all different types, and it had never been in our family before, which was really weird. But I tuned out. And then the next day I thought, oh, even though I don't feel good, I'm getting on the treadmill. And I was always a walker, right? And I wasn't feeling good though with what was
Right.
going on. I would at least get on the treadmill for a few minutes. And that's when Thoughts from the Treadmill was born. And that's where everything else came. So there's like that start. You had a blog, but it was a start. And then your daughter guided you that, okay, you got to have everything, set up. And yay, your daughter's a lawyer. That's a good thing. That helps a lot.
Yes, it was. And
Yeah.
it's interesting because before I officially had became a health coach, right? I
Mm-hmm.
even created and I took the name. I figured out the name I wanted for my business and I
Mm-hmm.
had it incorporated
Mm-hmm.
before I ever was truly a coach. I was
Yeah.
already in the school.
Mm-hmm.
And so by the time that I started my business, I had over 3,000 followers.
That's awesome.
Right.
So good.
It was a
That's
dream.
really good. Yeah, yeah. So if someone is, say right now, just feeling rather hopeless with a diagnosis similar to you, what's the first step they could take?
The first step that I really believe that people need to take is to really figure out what was the thought that they were thinking that really caused that hopelessness feeling.
Mm,
Because our emotions are triggered really by our thoughts. And
mm-hmm,
they're, we might be able to talk this, a little bit after, the break. But
mm-hmm,
really just understanding that you have a choice at that time, and most people don't see it as a choice. Sometimes we need to have professional support, but there's other times where when we can catch ourselves and say, well, let me just change this to a better thinking thought, or let
mm-hmm,
me go cope and I'll go take a walk outside,
mm-hmm,
get away from things or listen to music, but to make a distraction and not to beat yourself up, because it's important that we allow our emotions to come out instead of
mm-hmm.
suppress them, and to honor them, but to find ways not to stay stuck.
Yeah, yeah. I was actually just writing about something like that today. Like, if you're feeling like even if in extreme stress, extreme overwhelm, feeling bad about yourself overall, take a break from it.
Yeah,
Feel what's going on, but go outside, get in nature, let the air make you feel better. Let nature, let the beauty. Like I have got a burning bush outside my building right now. It's just
yeah,
outside my office. That's just beautiful, flowers everywhere. Just there is a way to just kind of calm things down, center yourself, and then you can think more clearly. You know, when you're,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah,
So we are going to take a break, and when we get back, we'll talk more about ways to change your beliefs and create a new attitude. Because every day, no matter what, we do have a choice,
yeah.
no matter what we're going through. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and we'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone, to Transformation with Martinet, where we overcome everything and compromise nothing. Today, we are talking about transformation, which is pretty much what we talk about every time. But today is more focused on health, healthy choices, and not just with food or eating plans or health, but just healthy choices overall in our lives. And Michele, you've been through quite a bit in your life, and I know that you believe, like I do, that we are always at choice, and no matter how much trauma that we've been through, and you and I have been through quite a bit,
Yes.
we do have a choice every day to make a new choice.
Yes.
And so you've described faith is your lifeguard, hope is your strength, love is your cure. Tell us more about that. I think it's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in a family that was religious, but by the time I, was an adult, I really wasn't going to church too much. But I always believed that I had some faith in some divine intelligence, because every time something would go wrong in my life, there was something else that counteracted it. So an example would be, I would refinance my house and have extra money, and then 2 days later my car would break down and I'd have to do it. But I was always grateful. And I had those synchronicities in my life all the time. But what I never expected to happen to me was this cybercrime. Became the target of a cybercrime that led to emotional abuse. And the pain got worse when I tried to stop what was happening. The first thing that happened to me is I became completely in fear. My computer was taken down. Literally, I got this email from someone that I thought I knew. And when I opened it, the next thing I know, my computer was shutting down. And I found out it was one of these cyber crimes where all of your data is taken, and then they'll tell you they want money to get it back. And so I had gone to, Best Buy and all these places, seeing if they can help. And they're all like, we can't help. You have to go to cybercrime unit. So I went to the local cybercrime unit, which was a lawyer who ended up thinking I was crazy.
Really?
And yes, they told me I had to take my computer. I thought, well, if you're the cybercrime unit, why aren't you going to fix my computer? Why don't you do the analysis on it? I have the computer. Because I had heard and read that they can trade it back to where that came from. I had hope, right?
Yeah.
It was thousands and thousands of dollars. And these companies that did it, they wanted you to mail it. I'm like, why would I have a cybercrime going on? People know exactly everything that I'm doing right now. They were haunting me. You know what I'm saying? They were trying to keep me from the authorities, and because they realized what they did. And so I was freaked out. I was just like, you can't do this analysis. No, you have to take it somewhere. Well, everybody wanted me to ship it. I'm like, well, that makes no sense. It'll probably get caught in the mail somewhere. So I was starting to feel hopeless. That's really where I was starting to feel hopeless at that time. And so I went to my parents. I literally was sick. I was sick. I was like throwing up. I'm going to be honest. I didn't know what to do. And I got questions like from friends, family, what did you do to deserve this? I can see it. They could see some of the stuff. I was actually not just after the computer died, I had to get a new computer out of business, right?
Yeah.
I went and got a new computer. I got a Mac on purpose because I heard that they were resistant. And then from that point on, I was still getting attacks. And this time it was coming in my business pages, my personal pages. I would get a message by somebody that hadn't been following me for a long time, and it would look strange, and I would click on it. When I would go to their profile, I knew it wasn't them. It would be sharks. I was getting things like, you're a target, you're a snake. It is what it is. It was just, I was in terror. Because I didn't know and it would come up in my news feed, how to spot a psychopath. I mean, it was just crazy. And so, in addition to my own family asking, what did you do to deserve this? It was things like, again, maybe you need mental health. Like, seriously, I was just like devastated. So at that point, I realized that the faith that I thought that I had I didn't, because I was living in so much fear that I was acting like an ugly person. The words that were coming out of my mouth didn't sound like who I was. And so I realized that I needed help. And after a while, I ended up enrolling in a spiritual psychology program. And I learned that, hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
And that when someone is mean to us and hurts us, it's never about us. There's something going on inside of them. And what we tend to do is to try to stop things and fix people and control what we can't control, which I was doing. There was nothing I could do to control this.
Yeah.
But I was attacking it, if you will. That's a bad word to say, but I was approaching it with more anger. And the more mean I was and angry, the more they were hurting me because they were trying to stop me.
Right.
And this is where faith became my lifeguard, because I had to believe in the now, not in the future, in the now, that if I just started being kind, just let it go. Let it go, let it go, let it go. Give it up to a higher source, power, God, whatever people believe. For me, it's always something has been better. Be better and you'll get better. That's what I did. I just literally lived my life. It doesn't mean I didn't have bad days. There weren't days that I didn't cry. Things would happen. I was being tested. That's how I felt. I was being tested, and it would get less and it would less. And I was starting to realize that when I felt happier, when they could see that I wasn't sick anymore, if you will, because I think they realized what they did, that they wanted me to rise. And then think about that. These were people who hurt me, but I started to realize that as long as I looked like I was getting better and shutting up, they would get silent. So that was a huge shift in my belief. And now I truly believe that thing, that hurt people. And the best thing that we can do is to realize that what people see on the Facebook pages, social media, all those things that you see where everybody is showing you their real that's not real. Most people are struggling with something, and when something hits them, whatever's inside of them, resentments, whatever, they will puke it out. And so the difference between hope was that I needed to heal. And I was trying to suppress some of these negative thoughts. I was really going, okay, I have to change this thought into something positive. I have to believe that somebody's going to help me out there, that this, and then all these synchronicities started happening in my life where I'd have a client who needed healing, and the next thing I know, I'm walking into a building where they're giving away all free books on healing, and I'm like, okay. So those kinds of things started happening in my life, and I started to have more belief. And I said, Michele, you not only have to let it go and feel good in the present, but you have to have hope that at some point this is going to end and that you're going to heal from this. And that healing is going to give you so much wisdom. And that's where the self-love came in.
Right. To clarify, did the attorney or anybody ever help you figure out this whole mess? Or was it just finally just gone?
I don't even want to mention the person's name because I would
Oh
hurt.
yeah, I'm not looking for a name. Just like
But one of the things that the attorney did was they called a person who was very close to me because they wanted to check my mind, because when they were asking me who I thought did it and I was explaining it, they wouldn't believe me because it was somebody who had a lot of power and was well known. And because of that, they went to a family member, nameless person.
Yeah.
And that person was so ashamed that they lied and said that I gave my password away to everybody.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
You talk about pain. It was the hugest lesson of my life. Like, I realize now that sometimes being alone and going through things like this, you become a very different person.
Yeah.
people tell you who they really are. And but the greatest part, and this is the good part because there's always a good part, in your darkest hours you learn who's there for you and who's
Mhm.
not there for you.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about it. I can even use that whole in my whole cancer journey. And I'm not really someone who I rather be the one that helps others than, getting somebody to help me is always, it's very hard. But I also thought that people I was really close with would be there just as someone to talk to. They weren't. Whereas
No.
others, I didn't even expect they were. So you never really know. And with you saying too something, well, you said that people always kind of show you who they are.
Yeah.
I remember a friend of mine saying this is a long time ago, and she said, so and so told me up front that, I'm not really a good person. And she told her, like, oh no, you are. She's not. She goes, I don't know why I didn't listen to her in the begin with. She
Right.
told me that. And it's kind of interesting, how people kind of hide behind a certain facade at times, but then things seem to come out, especially if there's well, death, divorce. That's when you really see who people are.
Yeah.
And like you said, hurt people, but also heal
Heal
people.
people.
I like that.
Oh, that is so true. I mean, because
Mm-hmm.
it becomes like you become, and this is where you change.
Mm-hmm.
Not only did I have to learn, I had to go back and look and say, where did I participate in all these things, if I
Mm-hmm.
did?
Right.
And I realized that a lot of times I didn't listen to my gut. It's just like that girl who said, I'm not a good person, and the person
Mm-hmm.
didn't listen.
Yeah.
I knew I was in a situation that didn't feel right before this trauma,
Mm-hmm.
but I was trying to fix it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was trying to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't listening to my gut. And that's lack of, I didn't see it as lack of self-love. I looked at it as determination. Like that was just me. I was this always this
Yeah.
leader, this determined person, and I always kindness, and I was about love, and that's all I ever was. And then when somebody wasn't treating me right and I was trying to get my point across, some people don't want to hear your
Mm-hmm.
point,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is. And then when you shame someone else, which you don't even realize you're doing in a way, you don't know what's coming for you next. So I had to look at what, because I still to this day don't really know how many people were involved. I don't know. It
Uh-huh.
was ugly. I mean, I had people come into my house. I've been in accidents. Like, uh, it's weird. Like, weird things have happened to me. And I'm not crazy. That's just it. I'm
Of
not
course
crazy.
not.
I'm not
No,
crazy. But what
no.
I learned is the healing that I have had when somebody's treating me mean now. It's not,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not perfect. Even I read the book, The Four Agreements: be impeccable with your word, don't say things you don't mean. And then the last one is do your best. So I do my
Yeah.
best. I do my
Yeah.
best not to hurt people, because when they're mean to me, I have to remember they're suffering. There's something in their
Mm-hmm.
life they're unhappy with, they don't like, and they're going to take it out on you. And so that's part of, you know, a gift that I was given, not only for myself, but when people are struggling with, they don't love themselves, they compare themselves to other people, or people are mean to them, to get them to understand it's never about you. It's
A
never.
hard one to learn. It's a very hard one to learn, especially with the people closest to us. Sometimes a husband might say something and it's like, okay, we had a bad day, just it's not about you. And sometimes that's just not easy to take, but it is definitely the reality.
Yes.
So we are going to take a break, but
Hmm.
we will be right back talking more transformation and healing and all that good stuff. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. Welcome back, everyone, to Transformation with Martinet, where we overcome everything and compromise nothing. My guest today, Michele Jazelin, and I have been talking about health and healing, and the fact that sometimes we can get our feelings hurt with people close to us and people around us, but we have to remember that it's not about us, it's about them.
Yeah.
And, we're all people who have gone through a lot of different things. And, we have to have grace for each other, compassion for each other, and especially for ourselves. So, Michele, why don't we talk about self-care and the tips that you would give your clients, and just to maybe to process emotions better, and just for overall healing in their lives.
Yeah. Thank you. Oh, well, I talked earlier a little bit about, being a people pleaser. And I love that you use the word self care, because self love really is self care. It's about caring for ourselves. And a lot of people believe that self love is ego.
Right.
And it is not. Our ego usually is the one that makes us take the wrong road,
Mm-hmm.
rather than listening to our gut and intuition. And so think about this. Most people that know they need to make a change in their life, whether it's health, they're in a bad relationship, they don't like their job, whatever it is, and that's making them miserable, and they just don't always say it, that's not self love. That's not self care, because we make excuses. I'm not just speaking for myself. I think we all make excuses at some times. And so for me, what I learned above and beyond people pleasing is that being kind, whether you're spiritual, you want to be a kind person, it doesn't mean that you have to like everybody.
Mm-hmm. Right.
We're supposed to love.
Mm-hmm.
We're supposed to treat people with respect
Mm-hmm.
and walk away from things that
Yeah.
don't serve us. And so, an
Mm-hmm.
example for my health. I wrote a book, by the way, and in my book, I have a chapter on clear support.
Mm-hmm.
Because even though I had a health coach, well, I shouldn't say even though, thank God I had a health coach,
Mm-hmm.
because we talked more about my journey and me having to love myself ever more than the food, the fitness, the sleep, and everything. And the reason for that was all of the people that were supposedly my friends, I would go to their house and I was making changes in my life, and I would be excited about progress or whatever, and I'd start to talk about a healthy recipe, and they'd literally shift the conversation.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
Right? Nobody wanted to hear about my progress or success. And people would purposely put donuts and all this stuff out there for me when my blood sugars were so high.
Dang.
Some people didn't do it with bad intention. I would even have, and they know that, my parents would just say, well, we don't know what to cook for you anymore. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
felt like I was being a problem for people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I remember going into when I started a fitness, and I wasn't in fitness right away. I worked on, my nutrition for 6 months, and then I was bullied. I was bullied by my health coach. She's like, you need to start walking. You need to start moving your body. Okay,
Yeah.
10 minutes later. But I remembered when I started going into fitness clubs after I was done with the coach and I was doing it on my own and I had already hit my health goals.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched people stare at me in almost like sadness. They would be on a treadmill over here, and I got to the point where I started bringing my business cards, and not because I was trying to sell anybody.
Uh-huh.
I would go over to someone who I would catch. They'd be looking at me, and I would go over and say, hey, I know. I would call them out, and I'd say, I noticed that you were staring at me. And I said, I just want you to know, when I showed up here, like most people, we don't show up at our best.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a health coach now, but I was once a very sick woman at 242 pounds. I have social media accounts if you ever are interested in learning more. you
Mm-hmm.
can follow me or whatever. And I never said it in a like, I want you as, I was
Right.
trying, my real point there for them was self love. We have to love ourselves where we are,
Mm-hmm.
and the funny thing about me is I didn't really know how heavy I was. I didn't know how sick I was. I was so busy working in the corporate world and pleasing everybody else. I knew I was overweight, and I had one friend that said something one time, but for the most part, I never looked in the mirror and said, oh, I was not that person.
Mm-hmm.
That was a blessing for me.
Yeah.
It was a blessing for me, but now I see so many people that beat themselves up about it. And I like to see now, like, from self love, I use that spiritual piece in me to
Mm-hmm.
get people to see that if you believe in some higher power, God, whatever it is, that I believe that our body is a temple, really just housing our soul.
Mm-hmm.
Our body may go away, but think about it. When people have family members that die, they bury them and believe that they can go visit them. The soul, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's they feel this connection still. And if you think about it that way, I look now at this, anything that I'm eating really is nourishment.
Mm-hmm.
And I love food. Pizza was my favorite food, and I remember telling my health coach, "Hey, look, it's my favorite food, and it doesn't like my blood sugar. You're going to teach me how to eat it."
Yeah.
So I'm not a fanatic, but I'm aware, and I think that self love is about being conscious.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why sometimes we have to get professional support,
Mm-hmm.
because 95% of our brain is conditioned with all these memories that we have. Just like a song, we might have a favorite song and we haven't heard it in a while. It pops up on the radio and all of a sudden you know the lyrics. Well, that's what happens with your automatic reactions and your excuses, and you can't do it. And this is the verbiage that you've been telling yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, it's if you start to live conscious and pay attention to what you're saying about yourself, you can change how you feel about yourself. Instead of saying I'm heavy or I'm sick or I can never get over this, to start retraining your brain to say, I can, I will.
Absolutely. And, that's really amazing that, like you said, you didn't really see yourself as overweight or any of these things. You still liked yourself. And that is rare,
Yeah.
because I know, I mean, so many people in my life, and, their stories, I read about it. I've actually got a book sitting over here that I interviewed. It was an anthology, and she was one of the people in the book, but it's called The Image in the Mirror. And everybody in that book, no matter what part that they wrote about, that's what their struggle was.
Yeah.
So it's really rare that you say that. And that's something, gosh, I want women especially to know that they're beautiful. It doesn't matter where
Yes.
they are, what stage they're at, whatever. They were made for
Yeah.
purpose.
Yes. Yes,
And,
absolutely. Yay.
yeah,
Yay.
yeah. So we're all beautiful in our own way. And oh my gosh, anybody who's listening right now, please know that there is hope no matter what. And you were created beautifully, just as you are. And that does mean, of course, we need to take care of ourselves, but you're still beautiful no matter what stage you are right now. You are a beautiful person. But I love how you said that, and I think we need to come from a place of love in all parts of our lives,
Yeah.
you
And you
know?
know what? And our words to other people make such a big difference. So I will let you
Mhm.
know, based on, the class that I've been in now, and learning that we can
Mhm.
either run away from pain or move towards possibility. One of the
Yes.
things that I learned is that when I first started on my journey, I was running away from pain.
Mhm.
Right? I didn't want my
Mhm.
daughter to be parentless. I didn't want to go on insulin. The doctor told me I was headed for insulin, and I told him to give me a
Yeah.
chance.
Mhm.
And I was running away. But then there was an incident in my life that was profound where I was at a concert and a rock star actually screamed at me because I was dancing. I was celebrating my birthday and I was happy and I was like, what's going on? And
Yeah.
I looked
Yeah.
around and pointed his finger at me and said something like, you are Miss America. And it was the rock band Styx. And
Oh my
it
gosh.
was Tommy Shaw, and he was at on his knees pointing at me, and they had just sang that song. But I think the reaction by them was that I was appreciating their music. You know, I was literally just lost in dance. And so I actually wrote that in my book too, because what I learned is those words were so powerful that I went from running away from pain to possibilities. All of a sudden I went, I am Miss America. I've already lost 60 pounds of 115. I've already gotten my diabetes under control. And I remembered who I was. I was this young girl who had all this spirit. I was a DJ. I loved to dance. And I got into this frame of mind, and it changed me. And so the next part of my journey was a lot different. It was happy.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. That's awesome. That's such a cool experience
So,
too.
so everybody out there has to understand the power of their words. The words you say to yourself, the words you say to other people. You are either hurting people or healing people and helping them, because you have no idea of the power you have in what you speak.
Oh my gosh, 100%. That
Yeah.
absolutely. So we are going to take a quick break, and then we will come back and talk a little bit more about self-love and the image in the mirror, and we'll see where it goes from there. Thank you everyone for joining us. Welcome back, everyone, to Transformation with Martinet, where we overcome everything and compromise nothing. My guest, Michele Jadlin, and I were just recently talking about the image in the mirror and love of ourselves, love of others, and sharing joy, spreading joy. Our words mean so much, not only to our whole physiology, our whole being, but what we put out there into the world. So, Michele, tell us about your book and where people can find you.
Okay, great. Well, I will first start to say, this is not to brag, but I just wanted to let you know that I wrote my book in 6 months.
That's awesome.
And the reason for that is I am a graduate from the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, and they had a contest that if we wrote our book in 6 months, somebody would get the top 10 authors would get an award, and I did win a top 10 author award for this book.
That's pretty great.
And one of the categories for winning was that it would be different. So that's why I shared this, because I believe what makes my book different. And I've had, people who have, reviewed it say, wow, this isn't a book about a diet. And it's a weight loss book, but I believe it's a health book. That it could be for anybody, really, because I don't even talk about food, fitness, or sleep till the end. I have 7 clear lifestyle practices that I believe that if people kind of map out their life first, because what I've learned is you're a wife, you have other people in the household, and now you want to make changes in your life. And I've had a group coaching program one time, and I went around to 12 women in there, and I said, so who at home is going to support you in this lifestyle change? And they all looked at each other. And one of them said, heck, my husband brings home a blueberry pie. And he says, well, it's fruit. So the point of it is that when we make changes, we impact everybody else. So what this book does, it starts for them with their why. And what's profound about that is what I talked about in how I shifted from running away from pain to looking towards possibility. So many people will say, well, I want to get healthy. Well, if you wanted to get healthy, the whole world wants to be healthy, and most of the world is not. So that is not a good why. You have to be very honest with yourself about the real reason. Is it because you feel uncomfortable in your clothes? Is it because you want to be sexier? You have to be honest about yourself, because that's what's going to drive you, that vision that you have in your head. And so I will share that during my journey, that's exactly what I did. I visioned. I could not breathe. And I'm telling you this because I give this stuff in my book, so I'm giving you a little part of it. At 242 pounds, I could barely breathe walking up 3 steps.
Mm.
I had to sit down in a recliner and push myself. I was tired. I'd get home from a corporate job. All I wanted to do was sleep.
Mhm.
And I would have to talk myself into just get up, just get up. But this is how I did it. I would imagine this vision for myself. So not only your why, but your vision. And I would literally look at what I was going to look at, how I wanted to look, how I wanted to feel.
Mhm.
And I taught, sometimes it would take me 30 minutes and I would go, okay, just get up and do 10 minutes.
Mhm.
And that's what I would do. So my book is about these practices, and they have worksheets in the book so that
Mhm.
they can fill out, and it's like they're creating their own plan, right? Even at the end of the book, I have where I say these are all of the foods that have plant-based protein, these are the foods that have animal protein, and then I give them
Mhm.
a little thing, and they'll know which ones are healthy, which ones are unhealthy, or
Mhm.
that. And I try not to say food is bad or good. There are more foods that are good for you that you can eat, and the ones that don't serve us, like maybe pizza or
Mhm.
that ice cream all the time, that,
Yeah.
foods with chemicals in them. It's not that you deprive yourself of that stuff. It's about being mindful of your choices, and that empowers you.
Mhm.
So they
Yeah.
have to, set their goals. They have to know their why. They need to get the right support. They need to do some visioning on their own.
Mhm.
And then towards the end, they're having all these choices. So I don't preach in that book.
Mhm. Mhm.
I don't preach in that book at all. And really want people to understand that self love is so important. And the only way that can help them, other than what they love themselves, we always expect other people to love us. And as I shared, I had a lot of people that wasn't loving on me, right? I was like,
Yeah.
you have to go find those people. And I
Mhm.
say that you need people someone who's going to be your cheerleader,
Yep.
somebody who's actually probably has the same lifestyle of you
Mhm.
and really can support you, and you can have this great conversation. You're on the same, line. And sometimes some people who push you, like an
Yeah.
accountability
Hold you accountable.
to hold you
Yeah.
accountable.
Yeah.
So for me, I've tried to find those people in my life.
Mhm.
And when I
It's so
started
important.
looking, I found them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like, they say when the student's ready, the teacher appears, you have to look for those people, because sometimes we need that, somebody to believe in us before we believe in ourselves.
Yes.
And it's that whole saying too of, who you surround yourself with is how far you're going to get.
Yeah.
If someone's putting you down all the time, or they're really not going anywhere, and all they're talking about is where they're not going, it's not going to help you any, you
No,
know.
not at all. And it's why I named my book Journey Beyond the Plate, because
Mm-hmm.
I wanted people to journey beyond the plate, because I've had many people, and I will do this for them, though I don't like it, is just say, just tell me what to do. Give me a program. Because we're used to the programs, and I'm not saying that some of them aren't good. I create
Mm-hmm.
programs, but I'm talking about them not wanting to, they just, because they're going to do this, but what's going to happen is they're going to get sick if they're doing the same things all the time. They're going to get bored of the same foods that they're eating
Mm-hmm.
and whatever, because they're on this thing. And then they give up and they change. It's like that's the yo yo diet. And the yo yo diet can be very not good for our body at all. It actually hurts us. And
Right.
I know I did it. I was one of those people. So the the point that I try to express in my book is to empower yourself with choice. We talked about choices before,
Mm-hmm.
but I remember when I first got healthy, I was working in a corporate job where they gave me $85 and I was traveling all over,
Mm-hmm.
Brooklyn, New York, Virginia. They'd give me $85 a day for eating, and I had 2 alcoholic beverages I was allowed to have.
Uh-huh.
And here I am going with other people. There was a team that all over the country, we would all come together and we'd be working on hospitals, and everybody was eating these big meals, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just got healthy, and now everybody's got wine on the table and desserts and all this. And eventually I started saying to people, would you mind splitting like an entree with me, and then maybe we can split a dessert? And
Mm-hmm.
then they started seeing me going into the hotel gym.
Yeah.
And one of the women were like, Well, I thought about that. Maybe I'll bring in my clothes. And so you can also be an inspiration for people,
Absolutely.
right? You can be an inspiration people for. So we have a choice. And so there were times I would sit in these bar restaurants when I was
Hmm.
traveling and I'd go, oh, I want that burger and I want the fries. And no, no, you're not having them. And I know the
Right.
people would come over with the menu and they would say to me, are you done yet? And I'm like, no. And I'd finally convince myself, okay, you can have the burger. Don't put a bun on it right now. Because I was still like, at that stage where I'd conquered things, but really didn't want to go backwards with all the food we were eating. And I said, but give me a salad on the side.
Right.
So it
Right.
was not giving up what I loved. It was making wiser choices.
Making smart, healthy choices. Right on. So we are out of time, but is there any one last little tidbit that you want to give? We've got like 10 seconds.
Um, the tidbit that I would really just give is to do exactly what we said. Think about choices in your life. Choose your thoughts, choose your foods, choose to love yourself.
That's beautiful. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in so much. Thank you, Michelle. It's been an awesome show.
Thank you.
And everybody, thank you again for tuning in with us live. And we will see you next Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Transformation with Martinet. Did listening today spark a sense of hope and possibility? Hold on to this feeling and tune in every second and fourth Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific for more inspiring conversations with Martinet and her guests. They will show you there is hope, and you are right where you need to be. Martinet is dedicated to supporting you right where you are while launching you towards promise, passion, and possibility that leads to the fulfilled life your heart aches for. If you're tired of being stuck, schedule a complimentary consultation with Martinet and get on the exciting path towards the life you want to be living. Visit martinetemmons.com and make your appointment today.